Hello, it's Thursday. This week, due to popular demand, I am going to be showing you how to make a little star-nosed mole. Alrighty, let's talk about tools and materials. So, for today's project, you are going to need 8-ply 100% acrylic yarn in 3 colours. You're going to need a main colour for your mole, a colour for his finger and toenails, and a colour for his feet, hands, and nose. That's my little Neapolitan plan there. You're also going to need a 3.5mm hook, a pair of scissors, and a couple of stitch markers, and today I will be using bobby pins because they work just fine. Now optionally you can have a pair of safety eyes as well. I will be using 20mm safety eyes today. Alright, cutting in here from when we're putting the eyes in, and this is what your mole will look like with 9mm safety eyes, and this is what your mole will look like with 20mm safety eyes. Now for today I think I'm going to go with the 9mm safety eyes. I think I like them better, but the choice is yours. And you may notice the hardest working tortoise is nowhere to be seen. We sent him off on holiday because today's pattern is no-sew. But you will need a whole bunch of stuffing. But that's it. A written version of this pattern will be made available to my patrons and will also be available on Etsy, and I will leave links to both in the description down below. Will you go get them for us? For anyone who's interested. Alright, so today we're going to be making a little star-nosed mole, and because he is no-sew, we have to build him in kind of an unconventional way. So I've broken this down rather than into pieces, into steps. So, step 1, we start at the tip of the nose and work to the back of the face. Step 2, we build the curve at the back of the head. Step 3, we form the neck. Step 4, we build the upper body back panel. Step 5, we make the arm openings and the belly. Step 6, we make leg openings, the tail, and finish off. Step 7, we make the arms, and there is a distinct left arm and right arm. And step 8, we make the legs, and again there is a left leg and a right leg. Alrighty, so let's get started. I want you to grab the colour you're going to use for your nose and your hook, and I want you to make a magic ring of 6. Like so. Then in row 2, we're going to work 6 increases. So that's an increase into every stitch around, which will bring our row total up to 12. Now I am working invisible increases, and all that means is I'm working the first stitch through the front loop only, and the second stitch through both loops, but you can feel free to do your increases however you prefer. So there we are at the end of row 2. Now I'm going to be doing something a little unconventional for me. I'm actually going to use a stitch marker to mark the end of the row for every row of this pattern. We'll see if it makes a difference. So in row 3, we are going to make him a little starry nosed mole. And I do just want to add that if you would rather him be a regular nosed mole, you can just work the instructions listed on the screen now. So pause it if you want those. But otherwise, I am going to carry on and show you how to make a starry nosed mole. So let's make some nose fingers. We're going to start by working 3 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to make some little fingers. And we're going to make those fingers by working 2 repeats of a double treble crochet in the front loop and a slip stitch in the back loop of the same stitch. So a double treble crochet is when you start by yarning over your hook 3 times. You insert your hook into the front loop of the stitch, yarn over and pull up another loop. So you should have 5 loops in total on your hook. You'll then yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the next 2, yarn over and pull through the next 2, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. So there is our double treble in the front loop. We're going to fold that forward. See there, we've got the back loop of our stitch. We're just going to work a little slip stitch into that to lock our little stitch down into a little bobble. So there is our first one, and now we are going to work another one in this next stitch. So 3 yarn overs, insert our hook through the front loop only, yarn over and pull up a loop, and complete our treble. Like so. Fold that forward and slip stitch in the back loop to make it fold over. Now if you don't enjoy doing double trebles, you could absolutely use treble crochet or even just double crochet for this instead, but your little nose bobbles will be smaller accordingly. All right, with 2 double trebles done, We have one more to do, but in this last one, we're going to change to our brown yarn. So I want you to make sure that you have your mole color ready to go. So it starts the same way as we did the other two. So we yarn over 3 times, insert our hook through both loops of the stitch this time, yarn over and pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull the next 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through the next 2 loops, leaving you with 2 loops of your pink on your hook. Then we're going to work our color change. So I'm going to hold that pink out of the way, grab a strand of my brown, and I'm going to pinch it at the base of that stitch, right there, yarn over and pull it through those last 2 pink loops. It's going to look a little wibbly wobbly at this point, so I want you to grab your pink and give it a little tug, give it a little scooch to settle that stitch down into place. But what it should leave you with is a double treble crochet in your pink, but your brown is on your hook ready to go. Now, if you want to be sure that this will not come unstuck, you can just simply take the 2 ends of your yarn and just tie them in a cute little knot on the back side of the piece. And that's all hunky-dory. Now, I'm not trimming off my pink yet because we're not quite done with it. Alrighty, so now carrying on with this row in our brown, we are going to work 3 single crochet, changing back to our pink in the 3rd stitch. So 1, 2, and then for our color change, we insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, so we have 2 loops of our brown on our hook. And then just the same way we did before, hold the brown out of the way, grab your pink from where it's still attached and just sort of lay it across the inside of the work, pinching it at the base of the stitch, yarn over and pull through both loops. So there we have a finished brown single crochet with our pink back on our hook ready to go. So you should have 3 stitches left in your row, and in those we are going to once again work 2 repeats of a double treble crochet in the front loop and a slip stitch in the back loop. So that's 1. We're going to do that again. And then in the last stitch of this round, we are going to work a final double treble crochet through both loops, changing back to our brown. 1, 2, 3. That's our double treble worked until we have just 2 loops left on our hook. We're a little tangled up, but we'll resolve that in a second. And just grab our brown, lay it flat across the inside of the nose to pinch at the base of the stitch, yarn over and pull it through to finish off that stitch. So there we are at the end of row 3. So with that established, this pattern looks a little bit more reasonable for the rest of this nose piece. And we are going to finish off this pink now because we are done with it, at least until we start making the arms and legs. So just get that out of the way. So row 4 is 2 repeats of an increase, then 5 single crochet. So the first 2 are easy. And then we reach this little patch of fingers, and you're only working single crochets into the double trebles, not into the slip stitches. So I'm skipping that slip stitch. That's the next double treble. That's the slip stitch. This is the double treble. So there's our first one. And then we have another increase and 5 single crochet. And once again, just into the double trebles. Move the stitch marker. Row 5 is simply 14 single crochet around. Now, just because we're using a stitch marker doesn't mean you don't have to count. At this point, I want you to double check your stitch count. Row 6 starts with 5 single crochet, and an increase, then 6 single crochet, an increase, and a single crochet to finish the row. And row 7 is simply 16 single crochet around. So for row 8, we're going to finally start curving up the front of the forehead. So in order to do that, we're going to work 3 repeats of an increase, and then 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3. So there's our first repeat, and we're going to do that 2 more times across the top of the head. There's our second one, and 1 more, increase, and 1, 2, 3. And then it's just 4 single crochet back to the start of our round. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. See there, we've already started to get like a little bit of a sloop. So row 9 starts with 2 increases, so that's one after the other. There's 1. And there's 2. We then have 8 single crochet across the top of the forehead. 1, 2, 3, 4. How do you guys feel about me counting out loud in these videos? And then 2 increases. There's 1. And 2. Finally, we have 7 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Row 10 is 2 repeats of a single crochet and then an increase. So there's our first one, and we're going to do that again. Single crochet and an increase. Then we have 8 single crochet over the top of the head again. And then we have 2 repeats of an increase and a single crochet. So kind of the mirror image of the first repeats we were doing. Here we go. And once again, 7 single crochet back to the start of our round. So that is what our mole head currently looks like. Okay, row 11 starts with 2 single crochet, 1, 2, then 2 repeats of an increase, and then a single crochet. So there's our first one, and we're going to do that again. Increase, and single crochet. We're then going to work 9 single crochet across the top of the head, and then 2 repeats of an increase and a single crochet. So there's our first one, and we're going to do that again. Increase and single crochet. Then we have 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, then a decrease, which we haven't done one yet. I do invisible decreases, which means I pick up just the front loops of the stitches, I yarn over and I pull through both loops, and then yarn over and complete the decrease. You are welcome to do a more standard decrease if you prefer, but all of my decreases will be the invisible kind. Then just 2 single crochets back to the start of our round. For row 12, we work 4 single crochet, and then 6 repeats of a single crochet, and then an increase, and then a single crochet. So there's our first repeat, and we're going to do that 5 more times across the top of the head. There we go. So you see we've moved all the way over to the other side of the other cheek. We've turned the other cheek, as it were. And then it's just 8 single crochet back to the start of our round. There we go. You should have 36 stitches in your round. Row 13 is 4 single crochet, then an increase, 6 single crochet, an increase, 8 single crochet, an increase, 6 single crochet, an increase, and 8 single crochet, back to the start of our round. Now that should leave you with 40 stitches in your row, and then row 14 is just 40 single crochet around. Like so. So there we are at the end of step 1, the nose. Don't worry too much about putting your eyes in just yet. There'll be plenty of opportunities to do that as we proceed. Okay, so heading into row 15, which is the first row of the head section, we're going to be using short rows, which means that we are not going to be working the whole way around for every row. So we're going to start by working 34 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 31, 32, 33, 34. At this point we need to stop and do a little bit of like prep work. So the first thing I'm going to show you to do is you're going to check that yours is going to come out straight, because otherwise you might end up with a mole with a crooked nose. But we can very easily avoid that just by checking something now. So I want you to take one stitch marker and mark the stitch we just worked. So that's the last stitch we just did. Then I want you to count backwards from that stitch 28. So counting that one, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 27, 28. So that's the 28th stitch there. I'm going to pop a stitch marker in there. So those 2 stitch markers indicate either side of the head. So when we attach the back of the head, which is what we're building now, it will scoop over that way, and you want them to look nice and evenly placed so that when you're holding them, the nose looks straight. If your nose looks a little bit crooked one way or the other, I want you to adjust the number of stitches in the row we just worked. So if your nose is crooked like this, if I was holding these 2 stitches, for example, you would work more stitches until it's straight. And if your nose is like this, you would frog stitches until your nose was once again straight. Now there is one other thing we're going to do. I've popped out the first stitch marker, but this one here, the one marking the 28th stitch back from our hook, I want you to count forwards from that 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and mark that one. And we're going to leave that marked, and you'll thank yourself for that later. That is going to be very useful to you. But we can now pop this one out. Just leaving this new one in. Okay, so with that stitch marked now, we are going to finish off row 15 by chaining 1, and we're turning the whole piece. So we're looking at the wrong side of our stitches now, and we're working straight back into the stitches we just did. Now, if you look down on top of those stitches, they've got 2 loops, a front loop facing us on the inside of the work, and a back loop facing away from us on the outside of the work. This next row is worked entirely through those front loops, and this is that technique I mentioned to get all of our stitches facing the same way. So we are going to work 28 slip stitches through the front loop only. So 1, 2, that leaves those back loops free and you should be able to see them. 3, 4, and yeah, basically just continue that the whole way around to the other side of the head for 28 stitches in total. There we go. So now we're on the other side of the head. We've slip stitched the whole way, leaving all of these stitches unworked. And we are going to once again chain 1 and turn our work. So we're back looking at the right side of the piece, and you should be able to see all of those little front loops that we didn't work into last round? Well, we're going to work into them now. We're going to work into them, working 28 single crochet across. Now you can work these stitches over the top of the slip stitches from the previous round, or you can work these stitches through just those front loops. So you can see there, working just in those front loops, how it leaves those slip stitches free on the back. We're not using those for any structural reason, which is why I said it's perfectly fine to work your stitches over the top if that's easier for you. But I do suggest that once you start working them one way, you carry on working them the same way throughout, because then all of your stitches will look that little bit more uniform. It just gives you a nicer look at the end. So we have 28 single crochet across, and I want you to stop and count that and check, because it's very easy to lose a stitch here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 28. Perfect. You're going to chain 1 and turn. Then we're going to turn, and once again, working in the front loops only, we're going to work 28 slip stitches back across. So what we're doing at the moment with these rows is building up some width to the head, and then later we'll be closing off the back of it to curve the head down into the body. Now this is a method that I used to use a lot more often in my designs, and as this particular pattern is one that we kind of found in the box from last week's video and kind of dusted off and spruced up a little bit, it's been really kind of fun to revisit some of the techniques I used to rely on, whereas these days I would curve this probably a little bit differently, but I just really, some very interesting structural techniques used to attach the arms and legs in this, if I do say so myself. So that'll be a bit of fun for us in a moment. There we go. We are going to chain 1 and turn again. Once again, you should be able to see the front loops across the front that we didn't work into last time. And we are going to repeat that sequence of 28 single crochet and then 28 slip stitches 3 more times, which will take you all the way to the end of row 24. Now I would encourage you to pause the video here if you would like those instructions to stay on the screen while you do that. I'm going to skip ahead now to the end of row 24. So there we are at the end of row 24. And if you lost count at any point along the way, the neat thing about working this way is you can very clearly count how many rows of slip stitch you've done, because they are these lovely even ridges on the inside of the work. So what we have there is, that's the rows. So what we have there is row 16, 18, 20, 22, and then that last one right on top is row 24, with the front loops still available on the front for us to use next. So what we're going to do next, now that we've got a little bit of width to our head, is we're going to start closing off the back of this, and we're going to do that in a very round sort of way so that the back of the head is round, basically leaving us with an opening at the bottom that we're going to use to build the next section later. So chaining 1 and turning, because I forgot to do that at the end of row 24. Making sure I still have 28 stitches in my row. It's very important. The number of times I lost a stitch during the designing of this pattern. Count them and count them again. 28 is this little shrimpy one right there. Cool. We're going to work row 25, which is 4 repeats of 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then a decrease. So there's our first repeat, and we're going to do that 3 more times across the top of the head. 3, and 4, and then it's just 4 single crochet back to the edge of our row. Now, if you are noticing that the edges of the ends of your rows are starting to like curve up slightly, they should be nice and square on one side, but you might find that yours are sloping a little bit like mine off to one side. There is a way you can do the stitches at the end of your rows that helps counter that. I have deliberately not been doing them so that I could show you this. This won't really make a big difference, but it can be nice to have things turned out square. Final stitch in your round, instead of pulling up your loop on top, what I would suggest you do is insert your hook under the slip stitch from the previous round and the front loop, and pull up your loop from the side of the piece. And it's such a little thing, but it will help pull that top stitch square. Instead of allowing it to slope off like these ones underneath, you'll get a little bit more of a straight edge. And I'm going to be doing that from now on in this pattern. At this point, you know the drill. We're going to chain one and turn, and then working in the front loops only, we're going to work 24 slip stitches back across. Now, if it makes it a little easier for you, you can always mark the back loop of the last stitch before you slip stitch through the front loop. That's going to help us find it it's going to help us find it once we've turned around. Slip stitch, chain one and turn. There's the little scallywag. So row 27 is 24 single crochet back across, working in those front loops only. So that's 23. Meaning we're back to the final single crochet of this row, and we're going to do the same thing, that little special stitch that I did last time. So insert my hook under the front loop and under the slip stitch from the previous row. Kind of rotate your work because it can make it a little easier. And then we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop around the outer edge of that stitch. So it's almost on a little bit of a diagonal, and yarn over and finish the stitch, giving you once again a nice little straight edge instead of a slope. Chain one and turn, and it is 24 slip stitches in the front loop back across. Three, and before we work the final stitch, we're going to mark the back loop. Chain one and turn, and now we can find the front loop when we need it. Okay, so we are currently at the end of row 28. We are very slowly starting to curve off the back of that head. We're going to do a little bit more of that now. So we're going to work 6 repeats of a single crochet, a decrease, and then a single crochet. So this is our first one. You're going to do that 5 more times across the entire back of the head. Chain one and turn. You should be down to 18 stitches in your row. That's what the inside of mine looks like because I haven't been working over the tops of my stitches. And row 30, which is 18 slip stitches in the front loops only. Chain one and turn. Now I did forget to move my bobby pin that time, so I'm on my own in finding the loop, but I believe that is it, so I think we're okay. So row 31 is 18 single crochet across, chain one and turn, and then 18 slip stitches across in the front loops. Chain one and turn. Okay, so in row 33 we are finally starting to close this off a little bit more. So we're going to work 3 repeats of a decrease, and a single crochet. So that's our first one. We're going to do that 2 more times. Decrease, single crochet, decrease, single crochet. Oh, there we go. So we should be at about the halfway point across the head. We are then going to work 3 repeats of a single crochet and a decrease. So there's our first one. We're going to do that 2 more times. So that's just a nice little reflection of the first half of the row. Keeps things nicely balanced. Chain 1 and turn. Hello! This is a time jump from the future. I just realized that I forgot to show you guys something that I've been doing. So whenever one of our short rows ends in a decrease, like this one here does, this one that's currently on the screen is row 76, but you're probably seeing this at row 33 if I've done my job and I've edited this back into it. We need to end this row with a decrease, and one thing that I have found myself doing is, instead of doing the invisible decreases here, is I've been swapping to a standard decrease just to end the row to help preserve the edge of what's going on. So how that looks is still just working through the front loop, pull up a loop through the first stitch, and then I'm pulling up the second loop around the outer edge, just like I've been doing with my single crochets, and completing my decreases that way. So yeah, back to what we were doing. And you should have 12 stitches left in your row. So we're going to work 12 slip stitches in the front loops only. Chain 1 and turn. So row 35 is 12 single crochet across. Just checking my stitch count there. Chain 1 and turn, and 12 slip stitches across again. So we will be using this technique every time we're doing short rows throughout this. So we will be using this technique every time we're working short rows throughout this particular mole. Now, if it bothers you, like, you might be tempted just to skip the slip stitch rows. And while you can do that for the most part, some of the rows are dependent on being started from the correct direction. So if you do not wish to work the slip stitch rows, what you can do instead is finish off at the end of every single row and reattach on the other side for each row. Then row 37 is 6 decreases. We are really getting quite aggressive with our closing off strategy now. So that will leave us with just 6 stitches in our row. Chain 1 and turn, 6 slip stitches across. It's because we're near the end doesn't mean we get to take shortcuts. You have survived to the back of the head. So next up, we're going to be creating the neck, which is actually more short rows, but we need to work them at a different angle. So rather than working backwards and forwards this way, we now need to be working them backwards and forwards this way. There's quite a bit of this in this pattern. It is what it is. The stitch marker is still in place, which is a good thing. Okay, guys, I'm gonna level with you. I think I've told you to put this in the wrong spot, but it's a really easy fix, and I'm just gonna leave it in until it's relevant to the next step. But leave it in for now, because it's okay. We will fix it later. Okay, so there we are after working those 6 slip stitches, but we're not quite done with this row yet. What we're going to do now is work along the edges of these rows and put 10 single crochet between where we currently are and where these edges join the corner of the face. And this is, unfortunately, the only row that we work with our stitches facing the wrong way. It's not going to be super visible on your finished mole. It's going to look like this. And then by the time we get back to the other side, we're back up the right way. So it's literally just this one little row of stitches. The solution to it would be to detach and reattach, but we're not doing that. We're doing this instead. Now, those rows of slip stitches should actually help guide your hook exactly to where those stitches are supposed to sit. making this a little easier than working in the ends of rows normally is, in my opinion. But in any case, don't worry too much about specific stitch placement. It's way more important just to get your stitch count correct in this moment. So if you have to, chuck an increase in one. Just make sure you have exactly 10 stitches running along that edge. So 8, 9, 10, perfect. And that's where mine finish off there. And that's the edge of the face from there on out. That's from the inside, and that's from the outside. And we are going to chain one and turn with our nice stitches facing the outside again. And we're going to work back into the stitches we just did. And that takes the form of 10 stitches back along those edges. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, bringing us back to those 6 stitches at the back of the head, and you are going to find the little front loops and work into those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, leaving us there. We are now going to work 12 single crochet along these edges, this time from the outside, so it's a little bit tricky to find, but you can always refer to the ridges on the inside. And we're going to work 12 single crochet from where we currently are to where we meet the face. And once again, just let the edges of those rows guide you, and it's way more important to get your stitch count right than to have your stitches positioned evenly. So just, if you have to, you can always just chuck an increase in to get that stitch count up. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So once again, that's where I'm finishing. Not finishing off, that's just where the end of the row is. And that's what it looks like on the inside. And we're going to chain one and turn. So we have a new short row that we're working with now, and it runs from here all the way back around to here. And that's where we are as of the end of row 40. There should be 28 stitches in our new row. So in row 41, we are going to work in the front loop only, 28 slip stitches back to the other side of the row. And the whole short row process starts again. And I am going to keep marking the back loop of the final stitch each time. It does make it easier when we turn. Slip stitch, then we chain one and turn. So we're, oh, excuse me, knocked your eyeball out. So yeah, chain one and turn so that we are once again facing the nice side of the stitches, and you should be able to see once again those loops that we're going to work into. Nice and visible on the outside of the work, with the first one marked with a marker because we're kind to ourselves around here. Okay, row 42 has some goings on happening in it. You ready? 3 repeats of a single crochet, and then an increase. So that's our first one. We're going to do that 2 more times. So 1 and 2. So that's our first 3 repeats. We are then going to do 4 repeats of 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, an increase like so, and a single crochet. So that's our first repeat, and we have to do 3 more of those across the back of the head. So this is our second increase. And our third increase. And our fourth increase. Final single crochet of those repeats. There we go. So that's those 4 repeats. And then finally, to finish the row, we have 3 repeats of an increase Oh, come on, hands. You got this. So finally, to finish the row, we have 3 repeats of an increase and a single crochet. This is our first one, and we should have 4 stitches left so that we can do that 2 more times. I'm going to keep doing that special little tuck around thing for that final stitch to give us a nice flat edge. Chain 1 and turn. So our row currently has 38 stitches in it, so we are going to work 38 slip stitches back along, the front loops only. Though at this point I'm pretty sure you don't need to hear me say front loops only every single time, right? Gives me something to say. Carry on! And chain 1 and turn. So we are now going to repeat 38 single crochet across and then 38 slip stitches back 3 times in total to bring us to the end of row 49. Once again, I'm going to skip ahead to the end of row 49, so pause the video here if you would like to keep this on the screen. There we go, chain 1 and turn. So there we are at the end of row 49. This is what mine currently looks like. It looks like a little helmet. So we have a couple more rows to go to finish off this little neck piece. And we're once again looking at the nice side of our work. Now, hopefully you've been keeping track and counting and making sure that you definitely still have 38 stitches in your row. So now we are heading into row 50, where we actually start closing this off a little bit. So we start with 3 repeats of, I want to make sure I'm through the right loop there, sorry, hold on one sec, there we go. 3 repeats of a single crochet and a decrease. There's our first one. We're going to do that 2 more times. Single crochet, decrease, single crochet, and a decrease. We're then going to work 20 single crochet across. Like so, leaving you with just a little chunk of stitches left. And we're going to work 3 repeats of a decrease and a single crochet. There's our first one. We're going to do that 2 more times. Decrease, single crochet, and decrease, single crochet. Chain 1 and turn. So we should have just 32 stitches left in our row now, and we are going to work in the front loops only, 32 slip stitches back across the row. Chain 1 and turn. We have just 2 rows left in this chunk. Row 52, we are going to work 3 decreases. 1, 2, 3, 20 single crochet across, yeah, that's 20, and then we're going to finish this row with 3 more decreases. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1 and turn. And we are going to work 26 slip stitches in the front loop only back across the row. Kind of anticlimactic, but yeah, what are you going to do? There we go, that's 26. we're going to chain one and turn. This is what we look like at the end of the neck section. So we've completed step 1, which is the face. Step 2, the back of the head, which is this interesting little orange wedge. And now we've done step 3, which is this neck panel. So in the next step, we're actually building the upper body, and what we do straight away is something pretty interesting. And that is we create 2 little triangular armholes that we will attach into later to build the arms out of. Okay, let's get into the upper body. We are looking at the nice side of our stitches. All right, so row 54 starts with 26 single crochet back along this row, but we want to mark the first stitch that we do with a stitch marker. So that's into this loop here. It's our first stitch. We're going to mark that with a marker and thank ourselves for it later. So that's 1, and we have 25 more single crochet to work across the back of the head. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 'kay, so that's to 26. And we are now going to chain 6. Now I don't want you to pull these too tightly. You don't have to leave them massive, but we are going to be working into them technically twice before we're done with this particular pattern. So make sure you're leaving yourself a little bit of room to move there. So like that's the tension I've got on mine. And this is where this stitch marker comes into play. And as I mentioned before, I do think I've told you to put it in the wrong place, but we can fix that real easy. And I feel bad, but it's just, I don't want to frog the whole thing just to show this off. So I feel like we can just adjust it now. What I want you to do is I want you to either take a new stitch marker or you can just move the one you've got. And I want you to count backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4. And in that 4th stitch, that's where you want to put your new stitch marker, because that's where it was meant to be to start with. There are 3 empty stitches between the old placement of this marker and the new placement of this marker. I'm going to remove the old one for clarity's sake. And that is where you want the stitch marker to be. And I apologize terribly for that confusion, but the stitch marker still did its job. It still let us find the stitch we need to work into. It's just there was an extra step in between. So with our 6 chains, the next stitch we're going to work into is that marked stitch. And we are going to work a single crochet into it. And then 3 more single crochet along the underside of the chinny chin chin. So we chained 6. Stop moving. We chained 6, and then we did 4 single crochet along the underside of the head. And now we are chaining 6 again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Once again, do not pull those too tightly. You are going to need to work into them twice before we're done here. And that is the end of row 54. We nearly have our new round established. Row 55 starts with a single crochet into the marker we placed at the start of the last row. So that's that first stitch that we worked. So we're going to work a single crochet into there, which closes off a little triangle. We don't need that marker anymore. And then just before I continue on with row 55, I just want to stop and like show you exactly what we've done there. So we have 2, this is now a very holy moly. We have 2 little triangle windows, and each one of those is going to be where we build the arms, probably 3 years from now at this pace, but we're getting there, we are. So let's carry on with row 55. Now it starts with 26 single crochet, and that first one is that one we've just worked. So we have 25 more of those to do. 1, 2, 3, 4. If anything, you guys should be like, if anything, it has to feel good to not be doing short rows anymore. Like a little break from the short rows must be sweet. I'm enjoying it. Look at this. All of the stitches just go the right way without us having to fiddle around with stuff. So yeah, just basically crocheting all the way along until we reach that other set of chains. There we go. And now we are going to be working 6 single crochet into the chains. Note that I didn't say over the top of, I said into. There are 6 chains and we are working 6 stitches. Now before we do that, please note that I am working through just one loop of the chains. That's the loop that's on the outer edge of it, leaving kind of the loop on the other side free. And I do intend to use those when I attach the arms. So if you're going to struggle to find the back loops of these chains, chuck stitch markers in them now. Mark every stitch if that makes it easier. I personally have faith that I will be able to find them, so I'm not going to worry about that. But if I stop there for a second, you can see there, like, that's the back loop I'm talking about. You can just stop and chuck a stitch marker into each one of those now, and it might make it a little easier for you to find them later on when you need them. Just a million tiny ways to make this pattern just that little bit easier. But I know some of you are after the difficult. The real challenge here would be doing this without any stitch markers at all. But even I'm using stitch markers, so that should tell you where we're at. Okay, can you please let go of my hook? Thank you. Sorry, I'm starting to unravel a little bit. It's been a long day. So there we are, that's the 6 into the chains. You can see the back loops there free for when we want those later. We're then going to work 4 single crochet along under the chin. Now, if you can't work out where that first stitch is, feel free to just work into that same chain twice. The important thing in this particular case is stitch count. So that's 4 across the underside of the chin to get to the other side, where we are once again facing chains. And same thing as before, we're going to work 6 single crochet into those chains. And once again, you can choose to mark the back loops of those chains if it's going to make it easier for you to find them later. It's much later though, so please don't use anything you're going to need in the meantime. A bit of scrap yarn could do the job. Four, 5, and 6. Alrighty, at this point you should stop and count, and there should be 42 stitches in our round. 42. And there is. Oh, I love that for me. Right, popping the stitch marker out because we no longer need it. There we are at the end of row 55, and guys, the next couple of rows are just so blessedly simple as we're just working in a literal round with nothing fancy going on, just a little bit of shaping. I'm going to use a stitch marker to make sure that I don't lose count of my stitches. But let's just all enjoy this little rest by the fire before we head into the next part. So row 56 is 5 repeats of an increase, and then 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's our first one, and we're going to do that 4 more times. And this is that last repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'll see we're basically in the armpit, and then we are just going to work a final increase, and then 16 single crochet back around to the start of our row. Stitch markers save lives, folks. There we go. So there we are at the end of row 56. We currently have 48 stitches in our round. And it looks weird. It does. Kind of a little bit oogie boogie. Alrighty, row 57 is even simpler. We are going to do 6 repeats of 7 single crochet. And an increase. So there's our first one, and we're going to repeat that 5 more times to bring our total row count up to 54. Last one. There we go. Move our stitch marker. Row 58 is 6 repeats of 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then an increase. And then 4 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, there we are, 3, and 4. There's our first repeat, and we're going to repeat that 5 more times to bring our row up to 60 stitches in total. last repeat here. There we go. And the final row of this upper body section is simply 60 single crochet around. So that is 1 single crochet into every stitch. It's like a victory lap. And 60. There we go. Move your stitch marker. But there we are at the end of the upper body section. That is what we currently look like. Again, those will be where the little arms go. I'm not doing anything with the eyes just yet. I feel like this is a really great candidate for, hello, for a hand puppet. But again, not really something we're doing anything with right now. So next up, we have the belly. Okay guys, there's gonna be a few chainsaws in the background for this piece, and that's just, we have to power through it together. Hopefully it's not too loud. So we are now back and we're going to build up the belly section, which means we are back to doing short rows. So we are just going to start by working 4 single crochet. 2, 3, and 4. So obviously a very, very short row. We are going to chain 1 and turn. And then now we're looking at the back of our stitches again. We are going to work in the front loops only and work 24 slip stitches back across the front of our mole. 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Chain 1 and turn. So you should see that the sides of that row should be relatively centered below the head. Don't be too worried if it's 1 or 2 stitches off to one side or the other. That's just going to give your mole a little tilt of personality. If it's sitting really, really crooked, go back to row 60 and work as many stitches as you need to get it nicely centered in the front here. Okay, so we are now going to repeat 24 single crochet across, chain 1 and turn, and then 24 slip stitches back 5 times. So that will take us all the way to the end of row 71. Pause here if you would like those instructions to stay on the screen, but I'm going to skip ahead to the end of row 71. So there we are at the end of row 71. That's what my belly panel currently looks like. You'll note that it does sort of slant slightly off to one side. That's going to be fine. It's a little bit more straight on one edge and a little bit more diagonal on the other. You'll also note that mine is slightly off center when compared to the rest of the mole. That's also not going to matter at all. If there's only a little bit one way or the other, you're perfectly fine and on track. So we have a couple more rows left in this belly section, and that is just to round off the underside of this panel here, ready to form the new round for our final step. So row 72 is 6 repeats of a single crochet, a decrease, and then a single crochet. So there is our first one, and we're going to do that 5 more times, and it should take you all the way to the far side of this row. Just like that, and then chain 1 and turn. You should have 18 stitches left in your row, so we're going to work 18 slip stitches across in the front loops only. There are a lot of rows to this mole. He has depth, as it were. He's positively subterranean, but at least most of them are fairly short. They're not like massive rows of 60 the whole way around the whole time. There's a lot of like little rows involved. I'm hoping my row numbering isn't too confusing given that we are working so much in short rows, but please, any and all feedback is welcome in the comments section. I do read them all, even if I do not have the chance to reply to all of them. There we go, chain 1 and turn. Row 74 is 3 repeats of a decrease, and then a single crochet. So there's our first repeat. You're going to do that 2 more times. Should bring you to roughly the halfway point. Well, technically it's exactly the halfway point. Then we have 3 repeats of a single crochet and a decrease. That's 1. 2. And 3. Chain 1 and turn. You should have just 12 stitches left in your row, and we're going to work 12 slip stitches across in the front loops only. It's 12, chain 1 and turn. So you see how it's kind of rounding off the underside of this to more of a circle shape than just a flat. We are now going to work 6 decreases across. There's 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. And look, this is a quirk that I've picked up for this specific pattern, but I potentially should have mentioned it earlier in this. I'll potentially edit this back in the video to show you what I'm talking about the first time this happens. So, all right, I'm back from my little bit of time travel now. So there is our 6 decreases, and I'm going to chain 1 and turn. We have just 6 stitches left across the top, but there are no shortcuts. And we're going to work 6 slip stitches in the front loops only, back towards the other side. And I'm still going to put this in the back loop just because it does make it easier. I know I keep saying it, but I'm really hoping you are doing it. Save yourself the pain. Use the stitch marker. Chain 1 and turn. And the final row of this belly section is 3 decreases across to the other side of the belly. Okay, so there we are at the end of row 78, and we've built out his plump little belly. Now at this point, if you like to have a lot of access to the inside of the head before you snap your eyes on, this is kind of your point to snap your eyes on. Honestly, you could wait until we've closed off this piece entirely and just do surgery through the armholes. And to be perfectly frank, that is what I normally do. But for the sake of argument today, let's do a little eye try on. Got my 20mm eyes here that are the ones I'm going to use. But I'm going to show you what it looks like with some 9mm safety eyes as well. And I honestly think this one here will be really cute with just 2 little stitched on tiny little eyes and maybe a pair of glasses over the top if you happen to have them around. I don't know, let's start 7 rows back from the pink. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, my little sweetheart. Maybe I will use 9mm eyes instead. Look how cute he is. He's just a little mole. So that's what he looks like with 9mm safety eyes. So that is 7 rows back from the edge of our pink, not from the starting magic ring. It will be 9 rows total back from the magic ring. And I've just plonked them in loosely on either side of the head. I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches visible between them. Okay, so that's option A. And let's try the jumbo eyes. That's option B. Guys, I actually think I like the 9mm eyes better. Now for today, I think I'm going to go with the 9mm safety eyes. I think I like them better. But you can use whatever you like, including no safety eyes. Sorry, so sometimes you have a moment of like, oh, there you are. I've been looking for you. Check those eyes are straight, because goodness knows I always put them in crooked. They'll be crooked anyway. It's fine, we'll just adapt. And pop those backs on. Let's see if I can get a clicky noise for you. I don't know. That was pretty good. We liked that one. So we are now heading into the final section of this base piece, which does close off this bottom section. So in the first row of this section, which is row 79, we need to re-establish our round. So please note, we did not chain one and turn at the end of the previous row. So we are still facing the nice side of our stitches. And we're going to work 8 single crochet from where we currently are down to where we join onto the back again. So just down the edges of those rows. Yeah, so that's where our first one goes. 2. Once again, you can use these slip stitch rows to really help you find where your hook goes, because from the inside, this is what this looks like. Ready? My hook goes in there, but you can see there it's coming out neatly between those rows of slip stitches on the inside. And again, whoop, see? It's like a little guiding mechanism. Honestly, it's way easier than finding the edges of regular flat pieces. And 8. There we are. So that's my stitches down that edge. And then it's just 36 single crochet around the back to the other edge of our belly piece. So just 1 single crochet into every stitch. 1, 2, 3, 33, 34, 35, and 36. Now please note, this is the final stitch of those 36, not this little kind of gap where the edges start. That quite deceptively looks like the next stitch, but technically that stitch is part of where we were building our belly. But as long as you counted 36 stitches around from the side, you should end up in the right place. So now we have just one little section left of the belly, and it comprises of the edges of our belly stitches and then the 3 single crochet here from row 78. So we're going to work 9 single crochet up the edges. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and then just 3 single crochet across the stitches we made in row 78. 1, 2, 3. And there we are at the end of row 79. You should have 56 stitches in your round, and I encourage you to stop and count that now. Okay, so now in row 80, we are actually going to leave the openings for the legs. So you're ready for this? We are going to start by working 5 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to chain 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So just like we did previously with the armholes, we are going to have to work into these chains twice, once in the front loop and once in the back loop. So make sure you don't pull these too tightly. I'm then going to skip 9 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the 9th one. So the next stitch we work is going to be in the 10th stitch. We're then going to work 25 single crochet around the back of our mole. So that's 2, 3, 4, 24, and 25. Now we're all the way over here, but if we flatten our mole sideways so that the armholes line up, you can see, oh, sorry, I held them up to my actual eye, which you cannot see, but you can see straight through them there. You should see that our active stitch should line up with where the chain's joined on for that first leg. So that's how you'll know you're in the right spot. We're now going to once again chain 12. 1, 2. Like so. And skip 9 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And work into the 10th stitch here. And we're going to work 8 single crochet back around to the start of our row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So in that round you worked 38 single crochet, we skipped 18 stitches in total, and you worked 24 chains. But the row total is just going to read 38 because that's technically the only number that matters in this case, but there's a few other bits of context that are just helpful. All right, we're going to move our stitch marker. And there we have the foundations for our leggies. He's ready for armies and leggies. He will never face defeat. I'm so pleased with those 9mm eyes, my goodness. You have a gentle soul, little one. So, heading into row 81, we're going to start with 5 single crochet. Bringing us to that first chain. And we are going to work 12 single crochet into the chains. Technically we're working just in the outer loop of the chain, and you should feel free to use stitch markers to mark the inner loop of each of those chains if you would like, to help you find them later when we're making the legs. And when I say outer loop of the chain, just in case it wasn't obvious, that is the default way you would normally work a single crochet into a chain stitch. Sometimes there's like patterns that require you to work through both loops or the back loop. Sometimes there's patterns that require you to work through both loops or like the little secret loop on the back of them. This isn't that. I'm just trying to differentiate between the fact that there are loops on both sides of the stitch and we're working through the loops that are facing the direction we're going. Bringing us back to the stitches around the back, and we are going to work 12 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Then we're going to work an increase. It's the start of a little bit of booty, and then 12 more single crochet. There we go. Bringing us around to our second chain, and we're going to work 12 single crochet into that as well. Like so, and then it is just 8 single crochet back to the start of our round. There we go, and move your stitch marker. So with those leg holes now completely locked into place and looking fantastic, you should be able to see the real curve of his belly. He's very cute. He's just such a cutie pie. The rest of the rows of this piece are pretty basic in all honesty. So we are going to work to basically start closing off the front of the stomach, and we're going to flare the back out a little bit into just a kind of a little bit of a pointy tail. Kind of took a little artistic liberty with the shaping of this fellow, but I think it works for us. So row 82 starts with 5 single crochet. 1, 2, like so. Then we're going to work 7 decreases. When we decide to start decreasing, we do it aggressively. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It might pucker for you a little bit. It's going to look a little bit wibbly wobbly and strange. I'm going to ask you to trust the process for this bit. We are then going to work 11 single crochet up the back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. We're going to work 2 increases. There we go. So there's your 2 increases. Then 11 single crochet up the rest of the side. 1, 2. And then we're going to work 7 decreases back across the chain and slightly into the belly. Now this does mean that our decreases fall slightly further forward on one side and slightly further back on the other. That's okay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And again, it's going to be a little wibbly wobbly, a little puckery. It's okay. And then we're going to work just 6 single crochet back to the start of our row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pop that marker out. And 6. All right, row 83. We are going to work 5 decreases. Oh, we're going to put our stitch marker in first of all. Whoop-pow. And then 5 decreases. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then 14 single crochet. So that's our 14th stitch. We are then going to work 2 increases. 1 and 2. 3 and 4. Then we're going to work 15 single crochet down the other side. That's 15. Then we have 5 decreases back to the start of our row. You should have 43 stitches in your round at this point, and in row 84 we are going to work 3 decreases. Then 14 single crochet. Decrease at the very tip of the tail, and then 15 single crochet back up the side. Then it's just 3 decreases back to the start of our row. And you'll note these leg holes are becoming extremely unwieldy. It's fine, they're supposed to look like that. I promise we make use of that in order to build out a chunky little thigh. 2 and 3. So at the end of row 84 you should have 36 stitches in your round, and we've reached the widest point of the tail. That's the tip of the tail there. We are now literally just seeking to close off this opening. So row 85 starts with 2 decreases. Then 13 single crochet. And 13. Then we're going to work a single crochet 3 together, which I think might be the very first one we do in this pattern, and it might be the only one we do in this pattern. But basically all it means is we're going to decrease across 3 stitches. Now the first one is the decrease from the previous row. It has drifted slightly off center, and so this is going to seek to straighten our tail back out a little bit. So I do an invisible variation of this stitch where all you do is pick up the front loops of the next 3 stitches, yarn over and pull up a loop through all 3, then yarn over and complete your stitch. However, you can also use a standard variation if you would prefer. In particular, people with very tight tension might prefer just to use a standard decrease here, which is just the usual insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. Do the same thing in the next stitch, for a second loop and the next stitch for a third loop, leaving you with 4 loops on your hook, then yarn over and pull through all 4. That will work just as well. I prefer the appearance of the invisible decrease. So there is our invisible single crochet 3 together. We then just have 12 single crochet up the other side. Oh wait, that was 13, there we are, 12. I can count. I can totally count. And then we're going to work 2 decreases back to the start of our row. Leaving us with 30 stitches in our round. Row 86 follows the same structure. So we start with 2 decreases, 1 and 2, then 10 single crochet to the tip of the tail, then, oh, I was wrong, here is another single crochet 3 together, and then 9 single crochet back down the tail, and 2 decreases back to the start of our round. So at this point you should have just 24 stitches left in your round. And in this next row, we want to be more aggressive in closing off the back of the tail as opposed to the front of the body. And so what we're going to do is position all of our decreases back here on the tail. So we start by working 7 single crochet, then 2 decreases, single crochet 3 together, and then 2 more decreases. And 6 single crochet back to the start of our round. Please note I have not stopped to stuff at any point during this. That is because we have these very convenient air holes to stuff through later. Okay, we have 2 more rows to go. We should be down to 18 stitches. So row 88 is 6 repeats of a single crochet and a decrease. Don't really need that anymore. And finally, our last row is 6 decreases around. Go and finish off. Now it's not super obvious at this point in time, but there is a little hole right there. So I do want you to take your remaining tail and just pull it through the front loops only of each of those loops. Five and back to the start. Then just give it a little tug and it will close that little opening off like a drawstring bag. Then we'll just use one of the leg holes here to grab that tail and just tuck it away inside where it will stay forever. Okay, so there is the base piece for our currently very holy moly. So I suggest if you haven't yet, take a break. And when you come back, we'll attach his little arms. So next up, it is time to make, let's see if we can do this, a couple of little arms. Cause he's happy and he knows it, claps his hands. So we're going to start with the left arm. And what I mean by that is, rip, face him away from you. The arm on the left goes here. When you're looking at him, it's the right, it's the opening on the right. This is the one we're doing first. So if you look at this little triangle here, what you can see here is what we call the head, the back, and the belly. So for the first part of this arm, we are going to be attaching in the corner where the head meets the back, so that we're working down these edges first, and then we'll work up and around afterwards. Okay, so I have my brown on my hook. So your instinct is going to be to attach here in this little opening, but instead what you actually want to do is attach here, which is, if you turn it inside out here, this little opening directly on top of your first ridge of slip stitches on the inside. So it's a little further down the shoulder than you might otherwise expect. Now you are welcome to attach your yarn however you please. I think a common way to do it is to slip stitch, chain one, and then single crochet over the top for your first single crochet. But I personally prefer to do standing single crochet, which is where I have my yarn attached to my hook with a slip knot. I insert into the opening I'm going to work into. I yarn over and pull up a loop. So I've got 2 loops on my hook, and then I yarn over and I pull through both loops on my hook. And it just starts you off attached straight away with a single crochet. So now we need to work 7 stitches in total up this edge, and that's our first one. So I'm going to work the rest of them now. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We're then going to work 1 single crochet into like the corner where those 2 edges meet. It's a little hard to tell if that's an edge or a belly, so I just called it the corner. And then rotating and looking at the belly edge, what you're seeing there is the backs of the chains that we worked all those many rows ago. So I would like you to work 6 single crochet, each one into one of those chains, and you may have even marked them 11 years ago when we first chained that. And if you did, this step is going to be a lot easier for you than it was for anyone else. And you can feel superior about that, you can. There we go. All right, so far we've worked 14 stitches. I'm going to count and make sure I've worked the right number. This brings us to the head. Now the head has these lovely, nice loops that we could work into if we wanted to, but instead of doing that, we're going to work front post single crochet, because of course we are. So for this head piece, we are going to work 6 front post single crochet. And what that means is each stitch has the loops on top, but it also has this little post, that like the little square that makes the stitch itself. So when you work post stitches, you insert your hook around the post of the stitch, either from the front or the back. In this case, we're doing front post, so it's from the front, around the post, back to the front. Then you yarn over and pull up a loop around the post, then yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. So that is a front post single crochet, and it leaves you with this little set of loops, which is the official stitch, but you also end up with a little set of loops on the inside. Now that doesn't matter for this pattern, but it is something that you can keep an eye on and just be aware of. This mole is all about hidden depths, I think. So we're going to work 6 of those across the head. And 6, there we go. And I'm going to work 1 more single crochet into the corner between where the back and the head join as well. There we go. And that should bring you back to your starting stitch. So there we are at the end of row 1 of your left arm, and we have a new round that we're going to build this arm from. So row 2 is 4 repeats of a single crochet and an increase. So there's our first one, and we're going to do that 3 more times. It's 2, 3, and 4. So that should bring you down to this like bottom corner. I think we're just slightly past it, in case that's worrying you. Then we have 11 single crochet around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11, and that should leave you with just 2 stitches left in your round, and we're going to work a little decrease in there like so. So your round should currently have 24 stitches left in it. Now I'm going to start once again using a stitch marker to mark the end of my row, because it has saved us from disaster thus far. Row 3 is 24 single crochet around. It's 24. Row 4 is 2 decreases. Then 12 single crochet. There we go, that's 12. And then 4 decreases back to the start of our row. Leaving us with just 18 stitches in our round. So row 5 starts with 2 decreases, 1 and 2, then 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, then 3 repeats of an increase, and then a single crochet. So that's our first one. We're going to do that 2 more times. Increase, single crochet, increase, and single crochet. Then we have 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease back to the start of our row. And at this point you actually still have 18 stitches in your round, because for every decrease we actually increased as well, maintaining that stitch count. Row 6 is 18 single crochet around. There we go. So we finished off the upper arm, and now we need to do the curve of the elbow to redirect the lower arm. And we're going to once again be doing some short rows. So we have 18 stitches in our round, but row 7 is going to be just 16 single crochet. So 1, 2, so there we go. There is still 2 stitches left in our round, but we're not going to work into them. So we're going to chain 1 and turn. Then we are going to work 12 slip stitches in the front loop only, back across. So it's 2, 3, 4, 10, 11, oh, there we go, and 12. So that little short row should fall on, it's not directly under the arm, it's on the sort of like the bottom edge of it, but it's on a little bit of a slope. You see that there? So that's kind of where the back of the elbow is. And then we chain 1 and turn. And we're going to work 3 repeats of a decrease. And then 2 single crochet. 1 and 2. So there's our first one. We're going to do that 2 more times, and it should take us all the way to the end of the row. And we're still doing that funny little sideways single crochet for the ends of rows. There we go. Chain 1 and turn. You should have just 9 stitches left in your row, and we're going to work 9 slip stitches in the front loop only, back across. Chain 1 and turn. So this is row 11, and we're going to work 3 repeats of a decrease, and a single crochet. So there's our first repeat. We're going to do that 2 more times. All the way to the end of the row. and then chain 1 and turn. And we have just 6 stitches left in our row. And we're going to work 6 slip stitches in the front loop only, back across the row. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Chain 1 and turn. So this is the final short row for this particular arm. So hooray for that. We're going to work 3 decreases. 1, 2, 3. And we are not chaining 1 and turning. So there is the little arm opening we have. But there we go. So what you see there is we have the upper arm, we've got a little bit of a shoulder, and it's curving down and inwards, so towards the center of his body. So now we just need to make, it's a very short little forearm, and then we build straight out into a hand, but there's no more short rows involved in that. First thing we're going to do, as mentioned, we did not chain 1 and turn. We are working straight down these edges, and I want you to put 3 single crochet into these edges. So 1, 2, and the third one falls into like this little corner. 3, and rotating. Then we're presented with these lovely convenient loops right on top, but of course instead of working through the loops we're going to be working front post stitching instead. So I want you to work 4 front post single crochet across, 2, 3, and 4. And just because I'm not a monster, I want to let you know that the front post stitching here and here at the base of the head is actually technically helping to pull the arm up into position. I'm not just a monster. And you should have 2 single crochet with lovely little loops sitting on top left of like the head side of things. And we're going to work a single crochet into each of those. There we go. Then we have 2 single crochet up these edges. And you can use the little rows of slip stitches as a little guide here for you. So 1, see my hook comes up in between them, and 2, bringing us to the 3 stitches we worked in the previous row, and we're going to put a single crochet into each of them. So 1, 2, 3, and just like that we have established a new little round. Okay, so row 15 we are going to start by working 3 increases, and this is the direction that the little hand is going to face now. There we go, so that's my 3 increases. Then I have 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, and then 3 decreases, and these 3 decreases indicate the back of the hand. So 1, 2, and 3. Then it should be just 3 single crochet back to the start of your row, and we are going to change to our pink in the 3rd stitch. So that's 2, and pop that stitch marker out. This is our 3rd stitch. It's been a little while since we've done a color change, but it's the same way we did for the nose. We are going to trim our brown off and just tie these ends, just a cute little double knot on the inside. There we go. So you should have a finished single crochet, and your pink is now on your hook ready to go. So now working in our pink, we start the next row with 3 repeats of an increase and a single crochet. So there's our first one, and you're going to do 2 more of those across. There we go. Then we're going to work 7 single crochet, changing to our white in the 7th stitch. Okay, so that's 6, and this is our 7th one. And we're just gonna, I'm using, technically it's a slightly off-white or cream color, but whatever color you would like to use for his special little fingernails, now's the time. And you can attach this with a little knot as well, but we are not trimming the pink off because we are not done with it yet. There we go. All right. And we have one stitch left in our round, and in it we are going to work, and I'm sorry for this, a double treble crochet changing back to our pink. So there's going to be a lot of color changes in the next few stitches, and I just want you to bear with me. So I believe we've done color changes with double trebles before. It's been a while for me as well, but I'm just going to show you again now. So the double treble is when you yarn over your hook 3 times, insert your hook into your stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and you should have 5 loops in total on your hook. I want you to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over and pull through the next 2 loops, yarn over and pull through the next 2 loops, leaving you with 2 loops on your hook. Then hold your white out of the way, and then grab the strand of your pink where it's still attached on the inside, pinch it at the base of the stitch, and do your final yarn over and pull through in your pink. Gently tug on the white tail and the pink tail to settle the stitch down into place. So that's what that first little fingernail looks like. And that's actually the end of that row. So row 17 starts with us making the other 4 toenails basically. So how that works is we're going to work a pink single crochet changing to our white, and then a white double treble crochet changing back to our pink, so that's 1, and we need to do 3 more of those across. Now once again, just like with the nose, if you find double trebles unpleasant to do, you can substitute in treble crochets or double crochets, even a picot in a pinch, but just keep in mind that it will impact the look of your mole. Your claws will definitely look different than mine if you do substitute a stitch in. As long as you're happy with it, who cares? Last one. Now you should have 5 little toenails, 1 from the previous row and 4 from this row. And that's all she wrote for the white. We are done with that now, but I am going to work over the top of it for a couple of stitches just to really lock it into place. I'm superstitious that way. So we finished this round with 9 single crochet, all in our pink. His nose fingers keep grabbing the yarn. 7, 8, and the 9th stitch is going to fall in the top of that first toenail because it was the last stitch of the last row. There you go. So I'm going to trim this off. So there we are at the end of row 17. If you like, you can check your hand position by puffing them up a little bit. I've got mine sort of facing inside. You're a very polite little mole. You could, of course, swap the hands around in the pattern if you want to. So honestly, just swap from row 15 onwards and you'll get the hands facing outwards, which is just an entirely different look, but still very moley. So heading into row 18, we are going to work 4 decreases. And each one of these decreases will fall into a pink stitch and a white stitch. 2, 3, and 4. And then 9 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So then in our second last row, we have 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and then a decrease, and then 2 repeats of 2 single crochet and a decrease. So there's our first one, and we're going to do that one more time. So 2 single crochet and a decrease. So we have just 1 row left in this little hand, and we're going to cheat just a little bit just to make sure that it's sitting flat. And we have 10 stitches left in our round, but we're just going to work 2 decreases. 1 and 2. Then we're going to finish off, and we're not going to work in the rest of the stitches there. That is going to help stop us getting a little point on the back of the hand, which we do not want, but we are still going to weave this tail around to close off that little opening. Holding the hand flat, pull to close, weave that end down inside. Okay, so there is our first little hand. Our mole can now wave hello. Hello. He can also eat a sandwich if he wants. He can kind of give a thumbs up. But we are going to stop and we're going to stuff, just so that he starts feeling a little bit more real to you. I think that'll help. Now, the impulse to just stuff him like a lot of stuffing at once is going to be strong. But instead, what I want you to do is puff your stuff. I want you to tear your stuffing into little like puffs, and we're going to stuff just a little bit at a time because you'll get a more even distribution of your stuffing that way. So the first thing we're going to stuff is down into this arm, and you can access that through this arm, or you can access that through one of the leg holes, whichever is more convenient for you. Just going to stuff until that arm is feeling nice and full. There we go. So I've only stuffed up to kind of like here on the shoulder. The next thing I want to do is stuff the head, and let's just all silently cross our fingers that those eyes are straight enough. Goodness knows I'm never going to get them perfectly even, but straight enough would be lovely. So I'm just sort of scooping that into the head. I'm using one of the leg holes. Personally, the leg holes are a little bit bigger. My sausage fingers fit a little bit easier. Now, this little guy can take a deceptive amount of stuffing, okay? So just keep going until it feels firm enough. You should feel fairly firm. Still some squish, like we're not straining the stitches or anything, but you should feel fairly firm. So you can see it's almost like trying to sneak out this side a little bit. That's why we're not overstuffing. We're not going to stuff the belly just yet. We can stuff the tail now if you would like to, but honestly, I think that gives you enough of an idea. Alrighty, so the next thing we are going to do is the right arm, which is this one here. So that's because when he's facing away from us, this is the right side. And all of the techniques and tricks and stitches are pretty much exactly the same as for the left arm, but in a slightly different order. So I'm going to go a little bit faster for the second arm. I'll still stop and help with any of the rows that I consider to be trickier, but we're going to go a little faster from here. So for the right arm, we still have the back, the head and the belly. We are going to be attaching here at the top where the back meets the head. Then we're going to be working along the face first, and then along the belly, and then up the back. So this is where we are attaching for the right arm. Okay, so for the right arm, we are going to start in this top corner, and we're going to start by working a single crochet just into the corner where the shoulder joins with the face. Once again, I used a standing single crochet for that, but you can use the slip stitch, chain one and single crochet method if you would like. And then we're going to fit 5 front post single crochet along the underside of this chin. So the first little post we work around is this one here. I'm just going to work 5 front post single crochet. Three, 4 and 5. I must say, this little guy is way easier to work on cradled against your chest than he is out here on a table. Highly recommend. Cuddle him as you go. So rotating, we are now facing the chains of the belly, and we're going to work 6 single crochet across them in the backs of the chains from before. And if you're lucky, you marked them for yourself, so you'll have an easier time of it. 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. We are going to work a single crochet into the corner where the belly and the shoulder join, just in there like that. And then we have 7 single crochet up the edge of the shoulder, and once again you can use your slip stitch lines on the inside to help guide your hook into position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So yeah, that is the foundation of our right arm laid. So the next 5 rows are basically the same as for the left arm, just the stitches are in a slightly different order. We have row 2, which is 12 single crochet and then 4 repeats of an increase and a single crochet. Row 3 is 24 single crochet. Row 4 is 4 decreases, 12 single crochet and then 2 decreases, and that will bring your round down to 18 stitches. Row 5 is a decrease, 4 single crochet, 3 repeats of a single crochet and an increase, 2 single crochet and then 2 decreases, and row 6 is 18 single crochet around. So there we go. You've once again worked up the upper arm and we're prepared now to work the curve of the elbow. So again, this elbow is almost identical except for the first row. Doesn't even barely count as a short row because we're going to work 18 single crochet around. (16), 17, 18. So technically it's a full row, but we are still going to chain 1 and turn at the end of it. And working in the front loops only, I want you to work 12 slip stitches back. 1, 2, 11, and 12. So once again, that row should be on a bit of a diagonal, but on the outer lower edge of your arm opening. And chain 1 and turn. And again, the next 5 rows are pretty close to what we did for the left arm. So for row 9, we do 3 repeats of 2 single crochet and a decrease, chain 1 and turn. Row 10, we work 9 slip stitches in the front loops back across the row, chain 1 and turn. Row 11, we work 3 repeats of a single crochet and a decrease, and then chain 1 and turn. And then in row 12, we work 6 slip stitches in the front loops only, and then chain 1 and turn. And then in row 13, we work 3 decreases without turning at the end of the row. There we go. That's us at the end of row 13. In the next group of rows, we're going to be building up the hand. Okay, so for row 14, we are locking in the round that we're going to use to build the hand. So I've moved my stitch marker into the last stitch that we did. And now we are going to work 3 single crochet up the edges. 1, 2, 3, and then rotate so that we're looking at the top of the arm. So there we are. Next, we're presented with the stitches across the top of the arm, and you've got these lovely little loops presented for us to work in. So find the first set of loops. You might be tricked into working into this corner stitch. Be careful of it, it's tricksy. But you've got, if you look at that set of loops, you can see we've already worked into it when building up the rest of the arm. So we know it's not this stitch, even if it's peeking out and trying to trick you. This is the first set of loops that haven't been worked into, so that's where we're putting our first stitch, 1, and a second stitch, 2. Then we're going to work 4 front post single crochet across the rest of the stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, I'm not a monster, that post stitching does have a job to do. That brings us to our second set of edges, and we're going to work just 2 single crochet up those. So 1 and 2, and then 3 single crochet into the stitches from the previous row. 1, 2, 3. So that should establish a lovely new row of 14 for you to work with. So for row 15, we're going to start by working a single crochet, then 3 decreases. And once again, those decreases indicate where the back of your hand is going to be. 2 and 3. Then we have 2 single crochet, 1 and 3 increases. 1, 2, 3, and then 2 single crochet, changing to our pink in the final stitch. So there's 1, and here we go, 2. So that's our finished brown single crochet with our pink on the hook ready to go. And I am going to trim off the brown because it is done. It has worked very hard. For row 16, we are going to work 6 single crochet and then 3 repeats of an increase and a single crochet. There's 1, 2, and 3, and 2 single crochet back to the start of the row. So there is the foundation for our hand. Now, don't worry too much about stuffing at this point because we can still stuff through the leg holes, so it's just not worth fussing about with your hook getting caught in stuffing. Okay, row 17 has 7 single crochet, changing to our white in the 7th stitch. There we go. And then we have 5 repeats of a double treble in white, changing to our pink. And then a pink single crochet, changing back to the white. So there's our first one, and you're going to do that 4 more times. Thought I was done, but there's still 1 more. Changing back to our pink. There we go. So that's the end of row 17 with the 5 little fingernails attached. So you can go ahead now and finish off this hand with row 18, which is 6 single crochet, 4 decreases, and then 3 single crochet. And then row 19 is 2 repeats of 2 single crochet and a decrease, and then 3 single crochet, and then a decrease back to the start of the row. Like so. And then in row 20, it's barely a row really, even though we have 10 stitches remaining, we are just going to do a sneaky 2 decreases to close off the opening a little bit, and then finish off. And weave this tail around to close that off that opening the rest of the way. There we go. So there is our second little hand attached, and it's going to look weird until we stuff it. So let's stuff it now. There you go. Put it all the way in. Might need to just give the hands a bit of a squish to get them to sit right. But there are his 2 molly little hands, and his molly little nose, and his little molly little eyes. Such a chunky fellow. You know he knows where all the good worms are. Guys, guess what? There's only 30 rows left, 15 for one leg and 15 for the other. Okay, so we are going to start again with the left leg, which is counterintuitively this one. That's because when he's facing away, this is the one on the left-hand side. So, all right, so looking at the anatomy of this opening, there's actually 3 sides here. We have the belly, then we have the top, and then we have this little flap bit. So this flap bit is the backs of the chains, so it's nice and easy to identify. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches that are the belly, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches, which are the top of the leg. So we are going to start in this stitch here so that we work first along the top and then next around these chains. If you need help identifying which set of loops I'm talking about, find the first set of loops that are nice and free and easy to spot. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one here is where we're starting. So attach in that 6th stitch. Again, I'm using a standing single crochet, but you can use whatever method you're comfortable with. And then we have 5 more single crochet along the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 6 stitches in total along the top. Then we're rotating like a potating, and we are going to work 12 single crochet in the back loop of the chains that we made to form this leg opening in the first place. Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Fantastic. There we go. So we aren't working into these stitches of the belly. It's like a funny little corner one and then 4 clear free stitches. Instead, we are going to chain 1 and turn, because it's time to do some short rows. I know you missed them. Okay, in the front loop only, we are going to work 18 slip stitches back around to the other side of the row. Chain 1 and turn. So that's set the outer edge of our leg really nicely. So row 3 starts with 3 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and then a decrease. Then we're going to single crochet 3 together, then another decrease, and then 8 single crochet to the end of the row. Chain 1 and turn. Okay, so working in the front loops, work 14 slip stitches back along the row. Chain 1 and turn. Row 5 is a single crochet, a decrease, a single crochet 3 together, another decrease, and then 6 single crochet back to the start of the row. Chain 1 and turn. Row 6 is 10 slip stitches in the front loop only. So that's 10. Chain 1 and turn. So we're nearly done closing off the back of the leg here. Row 7 is 2 single crochet, two decreases, 1 and 2, and then 4 single crochet to the end of the row. 2, 3, 4. Chain 1 and turn. You know the drill. 8 slip stitches in the front loops only back to the end. 1, 2, and 8. Chain 1 and turn. So row 9 is just 4 decreases across. Two, 3, and 4. And we're not chaining 1 and turning. I'm just going to move my stitch marker to that stitch we just worked, because it signals the last stitch in our round. So what that currently looks like is a kind of funny looking little flap that's sticking out the side of our mole. It's still very wibbly and wobbly, but it has such great potential. We are going to create our new round, and so in order to do that we are going to work 5 single crochet up the edges of these rows. 1, 2, again using the ridges on the inside to guide me. 3, 4, and 5. Then rotating and looking at the belly. we are going to work 5 single crochet up the belly, and the first one falls into this little corner. 1, and then 4 nice easy loops. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's 5 in total up the belly. And then we have 4 more single crochet up the other side of the edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have just 4 single crochet across the previous row. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So at the end of row 10 we have established a new round where we will build our foot. There should be 18 stitches in it. So carrying on, we are now going to start shaping the foot. Row 11 starts with 5 single crochet. Then we have 5 front post single crochet. And then 8 single crochet back to the start of your row. Now in the last stitch of row 11, so the 8th stitch, I want you to change to your pink. Trim off that brown, because we won't need it again until the final leg. Then row 12, all in our pink, we are going to work 18 single crochet around. (17) and 18. There we go. So who's ready for some toenails? We're going to add some in this next row. So we're going to start row 13 by working 10 single crochet around, changing to our white in our 10th stitch. So that's our 9th, and this is stitch number 10. We're going to join. There we go. So I'm sure you're having flashbacks to the fingernails by now. We're going to work 3 repeats of a double treble in white, changing back to our pink. 1, 2, 3, change to pink. And then a pink single crochet, changing back to our white. Now I don't know if this is the right number of toenails for a mole. There is a lot of pictures showing the number of fingernails they have, but not a lot showing the number of toenails. So I decided 3 was cute. Feel free to add more if you know better. Just all the pictures of moles I could find were like buried. They were like popping out of the ground. Not really showing off their toesies, you know. Okay, and last one. There we go. So there are his 3 little toenails, and we have just 2 single crochet to finish the row. 1, like so. I'm going to trim off the cream. Thank you. Once again, put it to wherever the brown went. You'll need it again for the second foot. And then we have just 2 rows to close off this foot. So row 14 is 6 repeats of a single crochet and then a decrease. There's our first repeat. We're going to do that 5 more times around. Bringing you down to 12 stitches in your round, and then we're just going to work the final row 6 decreases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Finish off. Use your remaining yarn, oh, take your stitch marker out if you've still got one in there. Use your remaining yarn to weave through the front loops only and close off the little opening in the sole of the foot. Tuck it away inside. There we go. So he finally has a leg to stand on. You are really cute. I hope everybody loves you. Okay, so before we make the final leg, we have to finish stuffing this little guy. So that means stuffing this leg, the tail, the rest of this body, including his belly, until you can see stuffing at this opening, okay? That's what we're going to do. Whoop. Just like that. And the eagle-eyed amongst you might see that I've snuck a little weight in there as well. This is just a glass landscaping rock. You can get a bag of them for a couple of bucks at Bunnings. So I've snuck one of those in as well because it gives him lovely weight. But look at this sweetie. Look at this little honey bun. He deserves all the little kisses on his nose. So now all we have left to do is make his final leg. We're on the last leg of the journey. Alrighty, so we have clearly one thing left to do. So grabbing our brown for the final time. So this is kind of just the same as when we did the right arm versus the left arm. Between the two legs, the stitches are exactly the same, they're just in a slightly different order. So I'm just gonna guide through the tricky parts and then kind of whiz through the easier parts that we've already covered. So to start off with, let's look at the anatomy of this opening. So, other than the fact that we can see a weight tucked away in there, we have the belly stitches, we have the top of the body stitches, and then we have the flap chains, for lack of a better term. So for this right leg, we are going to start in this bottom corner here where the belly meets those chains, so that we work across the chains first and then across the top. So I want you to identify the first chain, and then we're going to work 12 single crochet across those chains. Is it 11 or 12? Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It was only 11. And my 12th is falling into this little corner spot, but that's fine. 12. I lost a chain. It happens. Then we're going to rotate and work 6 single crochet across the top, and they should fall pretty neatly into actual stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that is going to leave us 5 stitches up the belly for when we get to that point, but for now we are going to chain 1 and turn. So this part of the leg is basically the same as with the left leg. We are going to work 8 rows backwards and forwards to build up the back of the leg. So row 2 is 18 slip stitches in the front loops only, then chain 1 and turn. Row 3 is 8 single crochet, a decrease, a single crochet 3 together, a decrease, and then 3 single crochet, then chain 1 and turn. Row 4 is 14 slip stitches, then chain 1 and turn. Row 5 is 6 single crochet, a decrease, single crochet 3 together, decrease, and a single crochet, then chain 1 and turn. Row 6 is 10 slip stitches, then chain 1 and turn. Row 7 is 4 single crochet, 2 decreases, and then 2 single crochet, chain 1 and turn. Row 8 is 8 slip stitches, then chain 1 and turn. And row 9 is 4 decreases, and do not turn at the end of that row. Got all tangled up in that final stitch. This is anyway the final stitch in row 9. So we've got the little flap that makes the back of the leg, just like we did last time. That's what we currently look like. So the time has come to form our new round. I feel like that might be something I should supervise. So here we are. Put my stitch marker in the last stitch we just did because that indicates the last stitch in our new round. And we're going to rotate, and looking at these edges, I want you to work 4 single crochet up them without getting tangled in all of these other bits. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let me try that again. There we go. Then we have 5 single crochet down the belly, which should be nice, easy loops, but don't be afraid to sneak a stitch into the corners if you need to get that stitch count up. As long as you've got 5 roughly down the belly, it's fine. 4, 5. Then we have 5 single crochet up this other side of edges. And finally we have 4 single crochet into the stitches we worked in the previous row. 1, 2, 3. Pop that marker out. It's done its job. 4. Pop that marker back in. And there we are at the end of row 10 with our new round established, and it should have 18 stitches in it. You can nearly sit up by yourself, buddy. Bear with us a little while longer. And it's all downhill from here, folks, nothing new. So we've got row 11, which is 4 single crochet, 5 front post single crochet down the belly, and then 9 single crochet back around to our starting point, changing to our pink in the 9th stitch. So that's 8, and this is our 9th now. Playing a little bit of yarn chicken here, but I should be okay. I hope I'm okay. I don't know if I have more of this colour. There we go. That is it for the brown. So trim it off, tie it if you like. Don't worry about it if you don't. And then in row 12, we're going to work 18 single crochet around in our pink, changing to our white in the final stitch. Now, if you're starting to feel nervous about this, you can start sneaking a little bit of stuffing in there now if you want. I'm going to wait until after we've done the next row, so after we've done the toenails. Row 13 is 3 repeats of a double treble crochet in our white, changing to our pink, and then a single crochet in our pink, changing to our white. That's 1. 2, 3. See them there. And then we work 12 single crochet back to the start of our round. 11 and 12. There we go. So we'll trim off the white, and we're all done with it now too. And with just 2 rows to go, let's sneak a little bit of stuffing in there. This is the only leg you have to stuff as you go, but you got to make sure that you get all of the rest of the stuffing you want in now, because there's no openings afterwards. Oh, nom 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 nom. Oh, the yarn chicken is looming. I am nervous. But okay, all stuffed. So now we're just going to work row 14, which is 6 repeats of a decrease and then a single crochet. Like so. Oh, who said we needed any more tension in the end of this video? Last chance for stuffing. Then just 6 decreases around. 1, 2, I think we might be okay. 3, 4, 5. Oh my goodness. 6. That is the perfect amount of yarn. Finish off. All right, weave your tail around to close off the little opening. And tuck that end away inside. So there is our finished star nose mole. And his name is Edna Mole. Right, so there is our finished little mole. I hope you had fun making him with me today. And now, I guess the 3 people who have ever wanted a star nose mole pattern can have one. Anyway, I'll see you next week. Okay, bye. You can already tell this is going to be a long pattern today, folks. 4. How do you guys feel about me counting out loud in these videos? I know on live streams it tends to mess some of you up. Why can you never just behave yourself, huh? 5, 6. I've decided it's my job to count. He looks like a little mole that's going for a swim. As the tortoises watch, very concerned. Oh, I like that. Alright guys, brace yourself. This texture is definitely coming up again in future. Look how wonderful those ridges are. It looks like you could literally wear a second mole head as a helmet. But you never would you? Because you're just a sweet little guy. But we can, because it's amusing. Oh, whoops, I zoned out. I did too many stitches. This project was never meant to be a project consumed in a single sitting. It's a project designed to be conquered. It's a gauntlet designed to be run. My light is moving. I do not like that. Maybe I need to trust my own process. That will even it out. Don't doubt your own process. You are the process. Row 86 follows a similar pattern where we start with 2 deep. Go in there, stitch marker. Something about it that's not quite right. No, that's fine, that's right. I really should trust myself more. I know we just had that lesson, but we're learning it again. Learning it again. Bah, bah, bah. So this is row 13 now, and we are going to, no, it's not. Or does he look like he's playing the bongos? You guys okay with that? Okay, if you say so. Right, I just filmed the intro when he only had one leg. Let's see if anyone notices.